Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our commitment is to help, hope, and healing of our veteran family and our nation. I'm Jim Blythe, a U.S. Navy veteran and a certified senior advisor. Join us as we continue the mission of leadership and commitment to our communities and our great country. Why, you never know where we're going to go or who you're going to meet. We invite you to join in, plug in, and share in what we do. This is your Veterans Impact Show.
Well, great day and welcome aboard. I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran, and joining me, my co-host, Cedric White, minister, Navy veteran, marriage counselor, and all-around super-duper guy. I got to tell you, we've got a great show for you today. I want to say a quick thank you to DBTV Network for all they do for us, putting us on twice a week on Saturdays and Wednesdays. Thank you, Dave Bruner and DB, and thank you for AUN for putting us on. Thank you for Fairway Independent Mortgage, the company I work for. My NMLS number is 311548. The corporate one is 2289, and we are an equal opportunity lender. We are a nationwide full-service mortgage company. Me, I just specialize in one small area, so call me if you need help. Also, I got to tell you, joining us, the founder of Symbios, Dee, better known as Dr. Dee Ashmore. She is an amazing human being, and her company does so much, and you're going to hear more about that right now. They're also part of this program. So let's get started. Captain McCully, Captain Patrick McCully, you are the head of the wellness unit for the Garland Police Department.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about your background in the police and then this wellness unit. How did you get that started?
So I've been a police officer for 31 years.
Really? You don't look that old.
Oh, thank you. It'd be a wellness program. Prior to this, my educational background is in human development through UT Dallas and developmental psychology. And so throughout my career, I've served on the SWAT team. I've served on our neighborhood policing unit. As a captain, I'm currently over our traffic unit and our specialized crimes unit. But I'm also the head of our wellness unit. And so our wellness unit is comprised of our critical incident stress management team, which is about 40 members of our department that react to, respond to critical incidents. It's also our peer support team. And so our job on that mechanism is to try to deal with preparing folks for some of the tough things we deal with, helping them get through that when that happens, and equally important is helping recover once those are over.
You know, you and I talked about this, and I've gotten to know you a little bit, and all of a sudden it became very important to me. And Cedric, you're a chaplain with the Prosper Police Department. Yes. We don't realize as civilians what police officers go through in a shift, in a day, in a week. It's never ending. And in many cases, we were talking about suicide for veterans, which they say we're getting 21, 22 a day committing suicide. You told me you're 3 times more likely as a police officer to take your own life than you are to die of something else.
Yes, sir. We track like what actually is costing officers their lives when they're working as police officers. We think about, violent assault, someone trying to shoot me, stab me, maybe even a car crash. Right now, it's 3 to 1 the odds of officers to lose their lives to suicide than those violent felony assaults.
Wow, that's frightening. But we've got a national epidemic of suicide. So part of what this wellness unit is doing is bringing this mental health back to the first responder, the police officer. And that's hugely important. So how did you find out about Dr. Ashmore and what they do to help veterans? So
we have a mental health officer, Officer Todd Jerry, who his job is more public facing, dealing with people that are in crisis in the community. But he's also an instrumental member of our team as well, helping provide those same resources the community would get internally to the police department. And we are constantly looking for what is the best resource that's out there. What are the best things we can do to provide the best services for our folks to help them prepare, recover through all these events. And through his association with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, that kind of led us to Dee in our constant search for what are the best things out there. And we had several folks that, on the veteran standpoint, they're both veterans and first responders. And so we thought if we can help those folks, that's who we're bringing back to our universe.
Well, Dr. Ashmore, tell us a little bit about Symbios and exactly what you guys do in your total wellness program within Symbios.
Okay, so Symbios is a multidisciplinary practice. We have the full multidisciplinary approach, meaning physical medicine and mental health. So we have the psychiatry, we have psychology, neuropsychology, a plethora of different types of counselors or counselors specialized in different types of counseling. But the magic or what sets us apart in our practice is vector therapy. We offer neuromodulation that actually makes physiological changes. So it's not just your traditional Medicaid. It's sometimes medicine is like putting a Band-Aid on it. Band-Aids don't always fix the problem. So we work on true physiological changes within the brain. Same thing when it comes to physical health, physical pain, oxygen enrichment at a cellular level that is afforded through this neuromodulation. It's absolutely pain-free microcurrent technology that works on your body systemically as a whole.
So this is basically you're using microcurrents of electricity.
Yes, sir.
And you're using the placement of the stimulations with acupuncture. So it's neuropuncture, what it's known as.
More like neuroacupuncture, correct.
Neuroacupuncture.
Minus the needles.
What this does then is it stimulates blood flow and oxygenation of the blood to specific areas of the body. So you can pinpoint, let's say you got a problem in your shoulder because you struggled getting out of a car, or you did something, or you were blown up in an ID, or a police officer was hit. How does that help that? And I mean, it basically, you're causing the body to heal. Is that correct?
It is biometric biofeedback. So we take whatever the physical ailment is. Let's say it's a physical pain, such as you're describing. There are meridians in acupuncture sites that will directly correlate with that type of physical pain. And that's actually where we place the electrodes on the body to deliver microcurrent that creates or stimulates blood flow throughout the body. It opens up the capillaries to increase oxygen enrichment, and it basically re-educates your brain, the hypothalamus specifically, to re-release natural neurochemical transmitters that have stopped secondary to disease, injury, or illness. So if you will, it resets your central nervous system.
So Dr. Didi, because you guys skipped over something and you went too fast by it, right? You said this is acupuncture without the needles.
Correct.
See, I think for a lot of people like me, that means a whole lot, because I hate needles.
It
right?
is absolutely pain-free.
I think that's very important, because someone who suffers, let's say I come in with migraines, what would be the prescribed procedure for that?
All of our treatments are fully systemic, so we're going to start with acupuncture points or meridians, if you will, in your feet, and then in your hands. And again, it's all accessed through or delivered through an electrode by microcurrent technology.
No needles.
No needles.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
You feel no pain. Most of our patients will lay back in the recliner and take a nap while they're getting the treatment.
Okay,
and you can't feel it. I know. I'm a patient, so let me tell you. You can't feel a thing. And usually when you're laying there in the recliner, you go to sleep. Just part of it, because they lower the light. But one of the most amazing things is when I was treated, and I did 10 treatments, I started, I started interviewing each of these men and women. Hey, what did you do in the military? What brought you here? Blah, 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 blah. Didi, I would say the vast majority of the people that I talked to said this was my last resort. I thought the VA was dumping me off, and if this didn't work, I was going to take my life. That's a very sobering conversation.
Yes.
Very sobering. And I think that there's a lot of stigma attached to that. But these are veterans, so they don't have to go back and operate in a combat environment.
Right.
That's over in their life. What they're trying to do is not operate in a combat environment at home. But they get triggered. Now, for police officers, you're talking about a different thing. You're talking about an environment that you go home, you're liable to get a call at 3 a.m. in the morning, bring it on. This helps to bring them back to a point of mental health and physical health. How did you discover, though, that it was doing so much for mental health?
You know what? Years and years and years. When we first found this technology, we concentrated solely on physical pain. So it was pain management specialty. Through the years, we saw so many patients that had secondary mental health issues. Most of the time, they couldn't sleep. You can't sleep through the night. So your body can only heal while at rest. Let's say we started seeing, honestly, how we started working into the world of mental health was some veterans we treated down in San Antonio that had phantom limb pain, excruciating pain, although they had an amputation. So we started treating them very successfully. And by the end of the first week, they were all sleeping through the night. No more nightmares, and the pain was gone. So I said, hey, there's something to this. So Dr. Rhodes, the actual inventor, went back, and that's why I talked about biometric biofeedback components. Instead of us playing around with the beat frequency and what's going to maximize pain relief for that individual, now you wear biometric biofeedback thermistors, which autonomously measure things such as heart rate variability and skin gradients, all the things that are required to put your body back into homeostasis, and to regulate the central nervous system and re-release the natural neurochemicals that have stopped, again, due to disease, injury, or illness. So we saw remarkable changes. You know, at first, like I said, we started in pain management. It started resolving the mental health issues that we considered secondary. So then we started seeing more and more mental health patients come to us, and it resolved. There are so many components where you have both. You have physical pain and mental health. Who's to say you have physical pain secondary to your mental health? Or if you're not sleeping, right? Or if you have mental health secondary to your physical pain. Works on both systemically.
And what a lot of people don't realize, for police officers, you're in and out, in and out. You may have to run a 200-yard dash, or you may then have to go be part of a break to break down a door. There are all kinds of physical things that you guys can do and get injured, as well as you may respond, to a fire, to an automobile crash. And the things that you see physically are huge, but the things you see mentally or as a moral disturbance are even bigger in many cases.
Yeah, when you think about and there's not really such thing as an average police officer, but if you think about what could possibly happen on a given day, you go to line up, you get your keys, you get your assignment, and you go work the streets if you're in patrol. And the first call out of the gate may be something really minor, maybe a minor car crash. But in that minor car crash, you may start wielding or feeling the sort of pressures of someone who's unhappy you're there, unhappy they've made a mistake. So you have to deal with the emotional trauma of that. Then maybe the very next call out is something as simple as someone had their car stolen, which is really traumatic for them. And so now you have to deal with those you're absorbing other people's traumas and navigating that. Then the next call you have maybe a kidnapping or a runaway, where you're going to do everything you can to try to find a kid who's been missing. But luckily the child was recovered, went back home. Next thing you have is maybe it's a stabbing. And then maybe you have an unintended death, which is where someone's been found deceased in their home. Right. And so if you think about on average, most people have only really a couple of traumatic events in their entire lifetime, unless they're in the first responder or the veteran community. And a lot of times it's going to be the death of a loved one. You may find a parent or a child, someone that you've lost. And typically police officers go to those calls and we interact with those people. On some of the worst cases, we're the ones who may tell someone that they have lost someone. Right. And that's its own emotional challenge. Even for me, those are the ones you sort of remember. And so we haven't even talked about the physical stuff of, say, on the kidnapping, there's a bad guy involved now. We're going to go chase him. Now he may be physically running. We may be climbing fences. We may be jumping. We may be doing all those sort of things. And to have your system moving in that many ways, there's really not an off switch. Because as soon as that call comes to an end, it's not like you get to take the rest of your career off. I've had enough. I'll never do these again. The reality is you will check back in service for us, and you'll be back on the radio for the next call that comes up. And it could be a shoplifter. It could be an aggravated robbery. It could be a homicide scene. And you will do that in a perfect world for the rest of your career. And finding ways to navigate that, to turn that on, turn it off, is absolutely essential for having a long career.
Now, Dr. Ashmore, as I have gotten to know symbiotes and understanding the neuropuncture, one of the things that happens is that there are chemical changes in the brain and in the body. One of which I think everybody understands with fight or flight. And Cedric, you know this from being in the Navy and the military, as well as being a chaplain to police. That fight or flight, that adrenaline,
right,
it doesn't go away.
Right.
It doesn't go away automatically. So you may get this situation. And when you walk up as a police officer, you walk up to a car from behind, that's got to be a moment of, oh my God, what is going on? And so you start ramping up that level all day long.
That we found a lot from military, from police, right? A lot of guys learn to sort of operate on that adrenaline, right? They call them adrenaline junkies, right? I'm used to it. I like that rush of energy. And when I don't have that, we talked about peace on yesterday. When I don't know how to operate in a peaceful situation, right? I take that adrenaline high. Now you expect me to go home to a nice, quiet, maybe wife or husband and kid, and just operate like that. And quite often that's not easy to do. So there needs to be things that we need, that these officers, these veterans need help in their ability to stabilize that mental aspect of it. So, and then imagine if you add pain to that. I have some type of back injury, some type of knee injury, and it's always aggravated, right? And I've got to operate with this. I'm still working. I'm not retired. I've got to operate with this. Imagine how all of that starts to culminate. And so what I'm hearing about the Symbiote system is that it's going to come in and it's going to help you to deal with that, the pain, the mental aspect, and what we like to add to it is the spiritual aspect, because we are trichotomous, right? Spirit, soul, and body. So we can handle every aspect of that human being. Now they're a more well-rounded person, and they can go and deal with what I call the craziness, right, of a police officer's life. I do ride-alongs, and what we see on TV doesn't compare to really what goes on in these officers, in these firemen, even the dispatchers in their lives. We don't really get to see what happens when somebody gets a call and, things are going on. We don't get to see that. And that, again, time and time again.
And that's why our first responders, it's so important that we take care of them both physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that's what the wellness unit is all about. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about that wellness unit and how it's constructed and the services that are offered. But also, I want to ask Dr. Ashmore to go into a little more detail of how this vector causes the body chemistry to change. And I want to make a point. It is FDA approved. It is also enormously effective. And today, there are so many modalities out there that are really good, but this is the most effective one I've ever seen. So we're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Stick around. This is important.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbiote Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Captain McCully, in this, what other things in your wellness unit are you guys providing?
So for us, it's all about, and we mentioned earlier, the sort of high prevention. You're bringing things up, bring things down. And so we sort of adopted what we call a buffet style thing of whatever brings people down, that's kind of our goal. And so a lot of things are simple talk therapy sort of things, of talking to your buddies. Police officers are pretty commonly always, we'll meet up in the middle of the night and talk about maybe the last call we went on, how things are going. Other folks deal with family. You may go talk about things with your spouse. Faith is always an important piece as well. For us, though, the wellness unit kind of drifted toward our wellness room. And that was one of the things we noticed. We lost an officer to suicide 2 years ago. And at that moment, our chief, Jeff Bryan, said, hey, we're going to do more. But we really weren't sure what that actually meant. And so with that simple little, direct order, the guidance of doing more, that's kind of where we got to our wellness and recovery room. And the idea was, we didn't want to come up with the cure, the one thing to solve everybody's problems, be it a pill, a technique, a strategy. That wasn't really where we're going because that's not realistic. Ours was more of, can we find a place, an environment where whatever is going to make you the healthiest, let you recover the best, a place for that. And so our wellness and recovery room, so we have at the police department now, is designed to offer as many modalities of care as we possibly can. The primary reason is always going to be physical recovery. We've got the exact same physical equipment you might see at a professional sports team, at a college level, Division I level.
Oh, you're talking about exercise equipment?
Yeah. No, not exercise equipment, recovery equipment.
Oh, okay.
So we've got things that are designed to deal with blood that may be pulling up in your legs from, say you're a professional athlete doing lots of leg work, or you're a police officer who's been on your feet all day long. You're a traffic cop who's been working on a motorcycle all day long. How do we sort of get some of those fatigue things that are building up in your legs and get those out of the body and let you process it? So we have compression sleeves. And you actually sit down in a reclining chair and we'll actually put compressed air around your legs to kind of move those fluids around as you need to. We have 2 elite massage chairs that are there. We have a couple other things. We have one of them, it's we'll call a focal wall. And it sounds kind of interesting. It's a wall that has moss on it. And to sit and stare at a thing of moss seems kind of silly until you realize it's a quiet, dark room and it's all kind of a regular industrial area. It is the little bit of nature we can bring inside the room. We actually control the lighting. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, what is the exact color we want to have in the room? Red kind of makes it hot. Blue might make it cold. What is the right temperature to make it feel relaxing and to make the lights as low as they possibly can be? Because, in the police world, we're surrounded by red and blue blinky lights all day long. What can I do to bring that down in a safe area? And so what's been nice about the modalities of care is one of our officers, Skylar Kemple, was a college trainer in his previous career. So he brought all the best things you could do for physical recovery. And what we found out is by focus on the body, which is relatively simple, with easy techniques. Even our massage chairs, you can sit in the chair, hit the button, and we're going. And it's a pretty easy currency for guys to engage with their physical health and their recovery. And it does transition to the mental health space as well. And we've kind of kept up our search. This is our 2nd year of having the war room open, and we're continuing to add new things every opportunity we have. If there's something that's going to help an individual officer, then we're going to go after it and see if we can bring it to our department.
Man, okay, Dr. Ashmore. Then when you talked about affecting the hypothalamus, what are some of the chemical changes that go on in the brain? We may have hit on that, but I think it's more important to realize that this is not just something real simple. This is something, though, it's not just, hey, get over it, buck up, get on with it. This is something that's very real in our bodies. It's not just police officers. Shoot, driving on this freeway system that's LBJ behind us, or a mother with 3 small children. Woo! That's traumatic right there, right, Cedric?
That's it.
So please.
It's matters of life.
Yeah. Tell us, though, explain to us, if you can, in the most simplistic terms, because most of us are not as bright as you are with a PhD in neuroscience. What's going on?
Okay, so you said it earlier, the chemical changes and the fight or flight. Okay, so that creates a higher level of norepinephrine in your brain. So the 2 most important chemicals you need to create the balance, if you will, are increased levels of serotonin and decreased levels of norepinephrine to give you that peaceful balance to allow you to go to sleep, to get to that deep REM cycle. So the too much norepinephrine is that fight or flight. So you get that when you go to a scene, like you were discussing. And sometimes you just can't shut that down, okay? I could go back in the whole neuroscience and explain in caveman days how we needed it. It's fight or flight, go out of your cave. It's eat or be killed. But in this day and time, we don't need that. We need to get a proper amount of sleep. Now, what's proper, you and I have had this discussion about, what's good for some is not always good for others. Everybody tries to get to that deep, 8 hours sleep so you get 4 hours of your restorative sleep. It's not always going to work for someone. But as long as you can get to that deep REM cycle to lower the production of or the norepinephrine in your brain and increase serotonin. Again, without the magic medicine, people go to doctors and what I call Band-Aids. Here, let's take an SSRI, or here, let's take this or take that. The vector actually works to decrease levels of norepinephrine, increase levels of serotonin production, all naturally within your brain, so you do get that chemical balance, so you can get that restorative sleep cycle.
And that's probably the biggest key. So this is, well, let me just tell you, there was a veteran that you introduced me to, and I think Diane and I took the guy to lunch, and he was suicidal. I mean, he had the most horrible story. He was a squad leader in Afghanistan, and basically his whole squad got wiped out.
He was one of 3 surviving members.
One of 3, and the other 2 committed suicide right after they got back to the States. So his squad literally got wiped out by that thing. And the effect on him mentally, as well as what he went through physically, this guy was brilliant. I mean, he was gone back to college. He was working on what, a master's or a PhD?
He has a master's.
Okay. And so all of a sudden, this guy is telling me that he's going to take a 9/11 and do it. And I'm like, oh my God. Well, you got him to a place down in Temple and you sent a vector with him and you taught him how to use it. When he came back, I couldn't tell anything was wrong with him. And before, you knew everything was wrong with him, right? That's just one. You've had 5,000 patients through Symbiose that had this kind of effect.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah. And so I want to say we've got, 5,000 patients we've successfully treated. Not everyone has gone through Vector. So
Right. So let's come back in just a minute after we take this break from all of our sponsors, especially Symbiose, and say thank you. And we'll be right back after these words. Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Heart's Ministry, and Symbiose Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation. This is a tremendous conversation about healing and having a place to go. So the Garland Police Department has developed this well room. I guess your war room, whatever you call it.
Wellness and recovery room.
Wellness and recovery room. A chance to recover before you go home. Cedric, you talked so much in your marriage counseling about the military aspect of boots on. You're going into the battle.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to think, I don't know when you said that the first time I heard it, I thought about putting my flight boots on when I flew in the back seat of a TA-4.
Right.
Those boots are rather unique. That when you put the boots on, you're getting ready to get in the jet.
Right.
When you put the boots on, you're getting ready to get in the Humvee or the tank or the whatever,
Right.
and you're going in.
Exactly. Too long, the problem is that we take the physical boots off, but we don't take them off mentally or spiritually. We keep those on. I tell you about a buddy of mine who was in the Navy for 41 years, literally, and I think to date, he holds the record for that. Got out within, I want to say, a month and a half. He was having major issues. Why? Because those boots had been on all of his life, all of his adult life. He left high school, came into the Navy, spent 41 years. And so you got to figure that's all I know. And so now to figure out how to no longer live that lifestyle, right? And so when you have people who, again, I'm used to the action, or maybe even worse, I've seen some trauma and I've compartmentalized it. I put it away for a long time. And now I get to sit quietly with myself, or I go home. And the only way to quieten that thought or that noise is a drink or something else, right? And so we that's what we're talking about, helping them to get beyond and understand, okay, we even help them, listen, on your way home, find a spot, wherever this spot is every day. At that spot, you're telling yourself, I'm taking my uniform, right? Mm-hmm. We got a boots on, boots off, blues on, blues off. This is what we call for officers, right? Take that off mentally. You're changing positions, you're changing roles, but this is something it's a practice that you have to do constantly. Otherwise, you take that same mentality home, right? Mm-hmm. I keep it on, keep the boots on, and then I get back the next day and do this year after year, and it becomes a major problem.
So with your experience in the police as a chaplain, mm-hmm. and your experience, wouldn't you say that this is something that needs to be a national movement that we need to have in just about every community that deals with trauma in the streets or trauma in the battlefield?
Well, that's an understatement, Jim, because, the normal way to deal with it is just suck it up.
Yeah.
Just suck it up, toughen it out. And what I'm not going to do is show that I'm being affected. Matter of fact, I won't even show you that I'm having physical pain. I'm not going to let you know until I can't bear it anymore. Right? I'm definitely not going to let you know that I'm having some emotional issues or deeper spiritual. Right? We have to put up that front. And now we're trying to get to an environment to where it's okay to deal with it from the top brass down, it's okay. We're not going to look at you as less. As a matter of fact, we're going to look at you as more because you're addressing the issue before it becomes a major life-threatening issue.
And this is not a situation that goes away immediately.
Right.
Right.
I had a good friend who was what we call in the Brownwater Navy, in the Navy, which was in the Mekong Delta.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys saw some of the worst of
Yes.
the physical fighting. And you're going down a canal in a riverboat and a hand grenade gets thrown into you, or a mortar hits you. These guys were getting it all the time. I think the average time a guy in the blue water or brown water Navy got injured or got killed was like days into their,
Right.
not even months.
Right.
So this is a sort of a level of trauma that we're dealing with.
So one thing that you kind of mentioned is that, a nationwide epidemic, the sort of bigger thing is that the reality is we've been dealing with it the entire time.
Yeah.
The reality is police officers, first responders, even the veterans have had to deal with these same stressors since the beginning of time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what have we done to deal with it. And a lot of times we've said, hey, just suck it up, rub some dirt on it, move on, which denial is a really good strategy until you can't.
Yeah.
And what happens typically is that whenever you stub your toe, now what do you do about it? And you think about the sort of the physical challenges we have of running and jumping and those sort of things. Within major sports teams, which have very similar demands, they have off seasons. If you're in the NFL, you take Monday off.
Right.
You have huge, seasons of your life to recover. For first responders, veterans in the field, you have tomorrow. And the idea is, how do we build those skills to where I can take myself home, use my family, my faith, my fitness, my focus, whatever my home thing is, to recover so I can come back and do it again tomorrow. Because if I don't do that, I'm just acquiring injury after injury after injury.
Right.
Just like if I had a broken leg, there's only so many times I would want you to tell me to go up the stairs. What I want to do is to see how can I fix this to be better, to be as good as it was at least, maybe sustainable where I can continue to do these things I want to do. Versus I'm just queuing myself up for one injury that knocks me out.
Yeah. And I think, too, as you respond to the public, we're dealing with all kind of crazy things. I have dealt with kids who were messed up royally on a combination of drugs and alcohol. I dealt with a kid when I volunteered in a halfway house. It was on, K2? Woo! Man. And all of a sudden, and in the Navy, Cedric, you saw it, I saw it, somebody messed up on methamphetamines and alcohol. They got basically a pill thrown in their drink.
Right.
And they were so far off the rails. And as a police officer, I know I dealt with, as a master at arms one night at barracks, a guy that was messed up like that. That was the most frightening thing I'd ever seen. You know what? That kid was about to take somebody out, and I hit him in the back of the head with a nightstick. Didn't even phase him. It wasn't until 2 shore patrols showed up and got him down, and one of them whipped out a hypodermic and hit him, and he just went cool till they could get him to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's a trauma that people don't understand.
I mean, right now you're describing it in very visceral terms, Larry.
Yeah.
You can feel it now.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that 4 or 5 times a day, plus tomorrow, plus the rest of this week,
Right.
plus 31 years of doing that, depending on what your assignments are.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about that the other day, and I've been pulled over by some police officers who were very good, and I'm thinking to myself, what now? What has this guy gone through?
Yeah.
And what has this poor person, lady, man, gone through? Man, I don't want to be the trigger that causes them to come unglued.
Well, and the one thing that I think we often, I kind of mentioned before, we've been dealing with this the whole time. And as I talk to a lot of officers, everyone has sort of the thing they do to recover. Otherwise, you wouldn't have made it out of the academy.
Right.
You wouldn't have been on the streets. You wouldn't do the job you're doing. And a lot of times it's a matter of identifying what that is and then protecting it. I'll use the word cherish for it, that if it's going to be, I need to protect myself from this, I need to bring those things forward. So how do I make myself stronger for those? How do I make sure that my relationship at home, if that's my strength, how do I protect that? Because at home, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a captain. At home, I'm dad, I'm husband, I'm son, that sort of thing. And so how do I protect that? And then you add in the normal traumas of growing up, aging, things like that. And then you add on the physical challenges. I've got a bad knee, I've got a busted ankle from a long time ago. How do you make all of that sort of work to where you can keep doing the job you want? Because the one thing that we often overlook for police officers struggling with this, they came to this profession for a reason. And it's typically as silly as some people think it is, it's to help other people. And if you can give me a tool, a way to help other people on the scale that I want to, which isn't one good deed in my entire life or even one good deed in a career, I want to do this every day.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, most police officers, first responders, even veterans, have some of the best job satisfaction that goes off the scales for what did you do today?
Yeah.
You're in the same boat with almost astronauts for, hey, what did you do today?
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to one of our rookies, and he was super excited the other day because he changed somebody's tire. And it was some teenage kid who just didn't know how to do it. So he got to play dad for 15 minutes. Exact same day, he's involved in another call where he's trying to hunt down somebody who's committing a crime and put that guy in jail. The next time he's trying to help somebody who lost whatever they lost. And those sort of moments, you collect those really fast. And it's why you do the job. So the challenge is, how do you do that? Add the stress of, there are consequences to the job, and put those together and make a career.
That's not a career, that's a calling.
It is.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I got to tell you, it takes a very, very special person like Cedric to get in the car and ride with you guys, or to get in that car, or to be in that situation and go. And it's very, very, very special. I got to tell you, I wouldn't want to do it. Now, I'm the first one. I was on a beach in La Jolla, California, and heard a woman screaming. And I looked out, and I saw a guy in the water, and I jumped down, and I went out, and that guy was about the size of Cedric, and he was face down. I got him turned over, and he spat some water, and I put my arm. I had life-saving training, and I brought him back up to the beach. And I started yelling, "Come here." You know how many people were on that beach? A lot. Mm-hmm. You know how many people went in the water to save that guy?
You.
Me. That's typical. And I personally would not want to be a police officer, even though I want to save lives. And that's what I do as a profession in working in the mortgage business. And now what I'm doing with Dee Dee in trying to save lives. But I got to tell you, to go that step, to be a police officer, I don't think I could do it.
Well, Jim, you said it. I'm sorry, Dr. Dede. You said it, though, the level of trust, right? The level of a calling is what you said.
Yes.
It is a calling. It takes a special person to put that uniform on day after day after day, having seen what they've seen and experienced day after day after day. And there's a level of trust. When I get in the car with an officer, right, if they don't know me, then the trust wall is way up, right? Until they get to know me. And I say all of that to say what Dr. Dede and what Captain McCully is talking about today is a level of trust now that these officers are going to be able to experience, to say, hey, we don't want you to just go out there and do your job. We're not going to just give you a paycheck, but we're going to give you an area of healing, right? An area of, I love what you said, cherishing that thing, or even gaining an understanding of that thing that helps me to bring that level of angst down to where I can operate every day.
So one thing, and it's kind of hard to see on the video, but I have a lot of things on me to protect me from getting hurt.
I can tell.
Yeah.
You look like a real tough, you know.
But, I've got a weapon, I've got my pistol, things like that to protect myself from somebody trying to hurt me. And we do a lot of high-level training on it. We sought out some of the best people that we could find to teach me how to shoot this weapon, how to defend myself,
right,
how to drive my car. And I'm kind of getting back to Dee Dee on this one.
Right.
I also want to be able to give the exact same tools to our guys to how to recover. Because I want to find the person who is the expert that can help me recover the best,
right,
recover the fastest, and get back to where I need to be on a regular basis. And that's the part I think sometimes we skip over. Sometimes we've lost it. We kind of hide it between, we don't really know what mental health is,
right,
what it feels like. But it's almost directly tied to your physical health. Everyone's had the flu and felt bad. Everyone has stubbed their toe and looked backwards at what tripped you, which means you're not thinking for the next 10 seconds. They go together. And I like what you said before about putting all those pieces together.
Right.
And if I can help, using somebody like Dee Dee to give me her expertise to make that part of my life better, it makes the rest of it better.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you got to get better, because after a while, the pain becomes so great. And the analogy, we had an earlier guest, and he was a Navy NFO, and he talked about putting peas on the plate. And Cedric talked about the same thing as putting straws. And we've always heard about the straw breaks the camel's back. There is a point that if you don't ever have any relief, that the peas overflow the plate, that the straw breaks the camel's back. And this is what you are providing, is this kind of mental health, physical health, and emotional health with tools. And it's not just, hey, buck it up, let's go. We're on our way again. Get on your camel and ride.
Right.
There's things that can be done. And that's where, again, Dee Dee, I see the total approach that I've seen in Symbios, where you go through a really probably the most extensive physical that I've ever seen, without getting into the blood work and the urine and all that jazz. The thoroughness of what Dr. Townsend and the thoroughness what Dr. Dombrowski and the other doctors do. You don't start on somebody and go, oh, let's slap your ass on the saddle and away you go. I mean, really, you're very thorough. Then, with all of this testing, the program is designed. The magic is not in the machine. The magic is how you use the machine. Correct?
It is. But we need all of the tools and resources, kind of like how we're always talking about Garland PD, as far as all the wellness and recoveries, war rooms that we've ever toured, or any mental health facility interdepartmentally. I think that Garland PD is the gold standard because of all the tools and resources you provide. And that's similar to what we do in the practice too. Obviously, we can't just say, hey, everybody come in and try Vector. It is medically supervised because it makes physiological changes within your body. It requires medical supervision. And what you're talking about, the tools and resources, we do diagnostics on each individual patient because everyone's different. Everyone comes with different physical ailments or mental health ailments. And, some of them don't even know what's going on. I've had several veterans that we're sitting down going over medical records, preparing to get them in for their medical evaluation, and they never even knew they had a TBI. So part of the diagnostic tools we look at are you need to see the body as a whole. What's working, what's not? Where do you have improper blood flow? Is there scar tissue prohibiting something? Was there a TBI? Do you have a chemical imbalance for some other reason? Those are all the tools and resources we use to make an appropriate diagnostic opinion as far as what protocol or pad placement is the best for that individual. You may have spinal stenosis, or you might have some other thing going on, but just because one pad placement works for one individual doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same for the next. Everyone is unique and everyone is different.
And Captain, one of the things too, how many times do you guys get involved in automobile accidents? The squad car hits something.
I mean, it's more often than you think.
I'm sitting here thinking, and now you guys don't do, well, I shouldn't say this maybe, but you don't do high-speed chases in the city.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you do? Yeah. That tells me, hey, Dee Dee, we better slow down. All right, we're going to take a break and then come back to wrap this up. We're talking with Captain Patrick McCully of the Garland Police Department, the head of the wellness unit. We're talking, and Cedric is my co-host. He is an amazing chaplain with Prosper Police Department. So we have a lot of police department experience with police officers talking about their wellness, their health, from riding in the squad car to having the war room or wellness room, whatever you want to call it. To Dee Dee Ashmore, you've been treating veterans and first responders for how many years?
We converted over to the VA in 2008.
Okay. And in that, you've had about 5,000 veterans come through the door?
Actually, 5,000 veterans in the active database just since 2019.
Okay, so we're going to come back and talk about how we wrap this up and how we get a call to action for your community.
Welcome back, and thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage, Healing Thine Hearts Ministry, and Symbios Integrative Health. Now, let's get back to this conversation.
Well, I got to tell you, I'd like for you to get in contact with either Cedric and I. Cedric, give out your email and your website real quick.
Email is simple, Cedric, CEDRIC @HHearts. That's HHEARTS.org.
And I'm Jim at veteransimpactshow.com. And what we want to do is provide you with resources. So, Jordan, if you can pull up the Symbios website, and you could then pull up the Garland PD website. Go to these websites, symbioseccn.com. Resolving pain, managing, monitoring brain nervous system, making it work. This works. I've seen it work. It's worked for me. Now, within the Garland Police Department, this shows you how important the Garland Police Department thinks this is by having Captain McCully here. It's important that we support our first responders, just as it's important as we support our military. And so in your community, you might ask your police officer, hey, do you have a wellness unit? They go,
What?
Well, by the way, you need to check with Veterans Impact Show because they've got a program about this and they can get you connected. Because, Captain, you said one of your things is to share this. And there is an organization within your police association. It's
The Never Walk Alone Foundation and the Garland Police Association.
yeah. And they're there to help you. And so the call to action is, how can we help our first responders to be well, to be the strongest, best possible first responders? I wouldn't want to go into the battlefield. I wouldn't want to go into a fight with somebody who's really messed up. Cedric, would you want to go to sea in the fight with somebody who's all kinds of messed up?
I didn't have a choice, but no.
No. Well, I was on aircraft carriers in Vietnam, and let me tell you, I believe some of our guys were messed up because they didn't come back. And I got to tell you, this is important because we want our veterans, we want our military to come back, we want our police officers to come back. And I think there's an awful lot of things that veterans can do to be mentors and help our police officers. We are an at-arms community, basically. We are military. We swore an oath that has no expiration date. So I want to call on you to talk to your friends in the police departments, in the sheriff's departments, in the fire departments. Talk to them about how can you set up a wellness unit that could save lives. Not only the life of a first responder, an officer, but save the life of somebody in the community that these guys are trying to help. Because the more we treat our police officers, the more we treat our veterans, the more healthy these organizations are, the healthier our communities will be. And when we have a healthy community, that's a great place to live. And quite frankly, we want to be so healthy that even the gangbangers and the bad guys want to change.
That's right.
They want to get healthy too. So thank you so much, everybody. This is an amazing opportunity. And Dr. Ashmore, you are helping the Garland Police Department. Some of the other police departments and sheriff's departments, what are you doing to help them?
Well, we treat a lot of police officers that come to the office seeking either mental health or physical medicine help, but also working with Captain McCully and Officer Jerry. And then there's another officer. She's a detective with the Flower Mound Police Department, Detective Michelle Horridge. And every time I've gone to a different police department, let's say by word of mouth, one of your officers at Garland PD talks to somebody at DPD. I go down and talk to DPD. We treat some of their officers, and word spreads. Hey, look what they did to us, and hey, I'm sleeping through the night, or whatever. Great positive changes, and it spreads word. I'll call any of these guys and they'll go, and gals, and they go to the different departments with us that have none. Like, for example, there's a sheriff's department that we're working with that has no wellness unit whatsoever. I picked up the phone because I can tell them what we do physically and mentally from a medical standpoint. But again, when you talked about the importance of peer support, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just talking peer to peer. I've picked up the phone and I've called Officer Jerry and I've called Detective Horridge. In fact, I called Detective Horridge one time, and within an hour, she was in her car, met me at a sheriff's at a meeting with another department to talk about the wellness units and how to get support through NAMI and things like that. So again, it's peer to peer. We use Garland PD as the gold standard because they know what they're doing. They've implemented it already, and quite honestly, we're working with some outside agencies to help other departments get in and work.
Patrick?
So we've had our warring for about 2 years. The wellness program for now is about 8. I think that's how we've been, and I've been in my role since then because when Chief Brown said, hey, we should do something better about this, as the assistant chief in patrol, I went to him and said, hey, this is sort of my wheelhouse. This is what I want to do. This is my calling, sort of a calling within a calling. But Dr. Ashmore mentioned peer support. One of the other things is the peer support team has their own peer support group. And so my peers, my counterparts are the peer support leaders of other area agencies that are doing kind of what I'm trying to do. And so we are a little bit predatory. So that if someone has a really cool idea like adopt a cop, we're gonna borrow that. If somebody's doing it better than we are, we're gonna grab that. And the trade-off is I like telling people what we do because sometimes you'll find out, hey, we just can't do that in my community because it's financially, prohibitive. Maybe we don't have the resources, maybe we don't have the space. But then what I tend to do is go, okay, what can you do? Can you have one person who simply checks on all the officers who are injured?
Right.
Can you do something smaller? And every time I've tried to do that, you usually find there's something bigger that you can do, that you have some other resource. One of our massage chairs was donated by a company that had a massage chair in our city in a warehouse. And they said, you can have one. I was like, that's serendipity. That's a moment from God.
There you go.
That's nothing we get any other way.
Yeah, and we need more of that as well. Contact your police department. Say, what can we do to help you?
Sure.
And one of the things we're talking with the sheriff's department, and they're talking about how can we also help the inmates? How can we help some of these inmates to recover? We don't want to just turn them back on the streets because they're coming back. So let's focus on that. This is the call to action. Save lives. Find out more. So this is Jim Blythe, and I'm going to say a prayer real quick. Dear God, we thank you for protecting our first responders and protecting our military and protecting our veterans. All of us have the job to bring this nation back together, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Goodbye. Thank you.